Two great guests today are one of our favorite. Naomi Wolf joins us again. Her book, of course, is War Room, and also Facing the Beast, and also the Pfizer Papers, all worth your time. Naomi can be followed. I'm having trouble getting everybody's X handles here. On X at Daily Clout, also Naomi Wolf, just one word, no E on Wolf. Then we have Dr. Mark Trozzi, ER doctor, trauma medicine, taught at multiple medical schools, publishes the Dr. Trozzi News, DRTROZZI News. Check that out. And we got a lot to talk to with him, too. He's also on X as Dr. Trozzi. Both of them after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
And we should have time for calls today. Be sure to check it out if you have yourself been hoodwinked by some of the panic porn that's out there, or how have you responded to some of the messaging in the media around COVID? How have you been hoodwinked? How have you resisted? The number is 8333-DREW. We will be taking calls as we go along here. But first, our friend Naomi Wolf, independent journalist, co-founder of gosh darn it, my tongue's not working today. Journalist, co-founder of dailyclout.io. She edits the Pfizer Papers and authored Facing the Beast, as well as many other books over the years. Naomi, welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so great to see you all again.
And I'm very excited to bring Dr. Trozzi in soon because he's a big Naomi Wolf fan, which we welcome Naomi Wolf fans to this show. And I understand where that comes from. So I want to get into this issue. You don't have to start there if you've got something else on your mind right now. But one of the things I want to get to soon is how the media use to go back to the well to try to use fear porn to muscle people's behavior. I'm going to get into the specifics of the things I've been seeing. But what's on your mind today?
Well, I think that's a great topic heading because it covers so much. And it's a narrative that we see over and over and over again, not just in, medicine and the science, but if you go back to, I was just reflecting on Yellow Cake, and what we didn't find in Niger, the drama about weapons of mass destruction that launched the war in Iraq in 2003. Right. I mean, you can go back. I wrote a book called The End of America, which was about the closing down of democracies. And it's pretty standard and goes back to Mussolini to roll out some absolute terrifying scenario that you can only avoid by handing over all your rights and all your critical thinking to the state or to experts. So I think it's an endlessly rich subject, and I'm not surprised because they made billions, last time, which was just sort of the day before yesterday, in the COVID era and in the subsequent kind of boostery panics related to the initial COVID vaccine rollout. They made so much money. People are now rejecting the COVID vaccine so much that Pfizer couldn't even complete additional trials because no one wanted to be a Pfizer guinea pig anymore. And so now they're trying to trot it out again. What else do they have?
Well, I mean, they have, listen, let me see if I can frame this in as clement and accurate a version as I can provide, which is there are two very good antivirals that are produced by pharmaceutical companies that have great efficacy. I've used them both. And if you haven't reached if you're an elderly patient in particular, it's designed for you. However, if you haven't reached your Medicare, what do you call it, where you have to reach a certain level, your deductible, A course of either of those medicines will be somewhere between $900 and $1,200. Maybe it's $1,500. So farmers making plenty of money without the vaccine, right? They got plenty going on. And Medicare does, to be clear, Medicare does cover both these products once you meet your deductible. And it looks much more reasonable in most of the script coverage situations. Most people will not need this. There was some data recently that showed that molnupiravir is the superior in certain situations. We've used a lot of Paxlovid over the years. So they don't need a vaccine anymore. I certainly don't need a booster for a variant that's been gone for 18 months.
But Dr. Drew, doesn't Paxlovid have horrible side effects? I mean, horrible side effects. The taste is the main problem. Molnupiravir is much better tolerated, but I've not really prescribed much molnupiravir. But with Paxlovid, there is almost always a rebound, and the rebound is primarily about a week to two later, and it's a cough, and it's a very, very nasty cough. But people are not ending up in the hospital. It's complicated, right? I've got patients who are getting very powerful anti-oncogenic, medications with active myelogenous leukemias and myelomas and things, and they would die if we didn't do something when this thing hits. I also think that is not a case for the vaccine. That's just practicing medicine, right? I mean, people get very, very, very sick. And you have to practice differently when you're dealing with very sick people and very elderly people. Right.
That doesn't mean that if you got sick, I would have you take any of these medications. I would tell you, unless something extraordinary happens, go to bed for a couple of days.
Right,
and that's
right.
it. And take your pine cones.
Oh yeah, those pine cones.
Tell them about that. Tell them about that, because we have them now.
Cool. Well, I am thinking respectfully, and it's so much fun. You're like the brother I never had. I mean, I have brothers, but they don't have civil arguments with me. We get quite heated, but with you, I do have civil arguments.
Oh, goodness.
When you're talking about Paxlovid respectfully, because I've looked into Paxlovid, I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm a poetry doctor. DPhil. I mean, there is like kidney damage and other organ damage that can be a side effect of Paxlovid. And just the reason I mention this is that I'm very, very interested in people not getting sick in the first place, of course. And so I'm very interested in practices that keep your immune system at operating as optimally as possible.
Well, let's review that. Let's review that, because you reviewed that last time, and we actually adopted some of your stuff. So I'm an enthusiast. Well, we got pine cone in jelly or honey now in our kitchen.
Did you order the jelly pine cones from Central Europe?
Yes, we have it.
Are you taking
I told you
them?
we
Are you
would.
enjoying
We
it?
did.
Yeah, you did.
Susan has been doing it more diligently than I have, I think. But yeah, they're great.
Is she feeling well?
Using them when I had some. She can tell you, but I had some dental stuff going, and so I couldn't chew on them properly, and so I didn't get into it at the time when it was going around, frankly, and we were traveling and stuff. And Susan did it. How were you with it, Susan?
I liked them. They taste good.
Yeah, they do taste good. But let me just say, I'm a big fan of nasal lavage. That's my numero uno go-to. So, but go ahead. You tell me your
I'm so glad
top 5
you said that, and that's why you're the last, one of the last 6 honest doctors standing. I'm sure we've talked about this, but Dr. McCullough, gave me the formula, gives everyone the formula for nasal lavage with betadine, which is an over-the-counter. I may have talked about this last time I was on the show, but I think you can't talk about it enough. An over-the-counter antiviral, antibacterial that's been around for decades. And literally everyone, including myself, who's gotten COVID, they're over it in one day with that 4 times a day nasal lavage with the betadine rinse. And I just I guess what strikes me always, I know a lot of people I know are getting bacterial infections and staph infections and pneumonia, which, why is that? You would know better than I, but I feel like maybe it's the vaccine.
With COVID, or they're just getting them more likely to get them these days?
these people didn't say they had COVID too, but I feel like it's all related to some sort of immunity damage or grossness.
Right. So I think you're right. And I want to throw down the gauntlet and challenge you, because no one's doing this in a meaningful way, which is what's done sort of in academic medicine now is it's all COVID. It's all COVID. COVID damaged the brain, COVID damaged the immune system. That's it. Needs no further study. That's that. And by the way, you need look no further than how they dealt with myocarditis. It's all COVID. It's all more likely to be COVID. Turned out to be bullshit. It's more likely to be the vaccine by a large margin. I have a feeling it's probably going to be the worst possible impact is probably going to be both. And it's not going to be everybody. It's going to be primarily Alpha and Delta, the early COVID strains, and it's going to be people that got multiple boosters with the Alpha and Delta. Those people are probably going to have something. Makes sense, right? Naomi, it just makes the biggest hit on their immune system and on their brain, right? But no one's doing the studies to figure this out. And it's data's got to be out there. I mean, get the Pfizer team back together and go look for this.
It's a heavy lift. I mean, you'll be glad to know I do have.
Yes.
I mean, it is.
Yes,
it's very hard to do. We were able to do it for 2.5 years. We issued 2 books, but without funding from the NIH or HHS, it's very difficult. Well, maybe you're right. You're right. But honestly, I'm a writer about women's issues. It's part of me is kind of at a place where I feel like we've shown what's needed. A lot of other people, including many experts on your show, have also shown what's needed. Now it's where's the science? Where are all the giant funding entities? Where are the universities? I mean, I don't expect pharma to do these studies, but I do expect some principled, oncologists and cardiologists and virologists to do these studies. It's not our job.
We almost had Vinay Prasad in there doing exactly that, and he was mixing things up. Hopefully, he'll do something on the outside too. But it's interesting to me that you bring up women's issues. You're ready to get back to that, because I do feel the same way. I was always kind of interested in that. And there's a Camille Paglia video making the rounds on X. Have you seen that?
No.
Taking aim. But you're laughing because Camille, but it's actually quite something to watch. It's a video from 1990, and it's fascinating to watch what she was seeing that was underway that turned into what we're dealing with now. And I remember, and I'm going to push on your feminism genes a little bit here right now, which is that she was very upset with the post. She felt like that the lack of pursuit of the truth and lack of understanding of how complicated the truth is going to undermine everything. And she was particularly worried about the version of feminism that she saw coming. Where are you at? What I want my Naomi Wolf version of the Camille Paglia video.
Well, for the record, Camille Paglia went after me for years and called me horrible names and said horrible sexist things about me, which I won't even repeat.
I bet she'd take it back now. I bet she would take it back. I bet.
I don't know. Maybe. I hope so. Not the point. The point is, I don't have a lot of respect for people who engage in, personal insults instead of sticking to the argument. Yeah. But she was right about a lot of things. I will credit her. I don't think she was right about me, but I think she was right to foresee the depredations of political correctness, binary thinking, ideological reasoning, all the things that have broken apart, the academy and science and really the social contract itself. But one thing I do want to say about women's issues that I think Susan will like is that, and you will like.
She's very busy over there. Go
okay,
ahead.
Well, you can
just listen.
But you'll like it too, because we've talked about, menopause and menstrual issues and so on. I have put together a new proposal, which I am submitting to NIH. I've gotten advice about how to submit it to NIH for another crowdsourced study based on a fascinating mystery. It shouldn't be a mystery, but Lydia Pinkham, I don't know if I've mentioned this to you, but she had a formula based on herbs that she got from Native American women healers in the 19th century, which treated menstrual dysregulation, menopausal symptoms, and childbearing issues. And it was a uterine tonic as well. And of course, Big Pharma bought the formula, changed it, and now the archives of a big study in the 1950s of all these women, millions of women took this formula. They loved it. They wrote her letters for 100 years. You know, they wrote her letters. I mean, not her, but her successors as well, after she passed away. And then there was a study in the 50s, a peer-reviewed study to see what these herbs were doing. That study is buried in the archives at Radcliffe's Center for Women's Studies. You're not allowed to look at it for privacy reasons. You can't look at this study. So the proposal, but I've recreated Lydia Pinkham's original formula. It's not that difficult. It's like 5 herbs. Some are difficult to get, some are easy to get. And I've given it to women, young women I know are suffering. They've had even one vaccine injection, mRNA injection. They're being diagnosed with things like thinning of the uterus and being told they might not be able to bear children. They're having miscarriages and they're having horrible menses, which we've talked about a lot. And we've done a lot of work on that with the Pfizer Papers, horrible menstrual cycles. You and I have talked about women having horrible menopausal issues. The focus is on fertility in this study, but we're going to recreate Lydia Pinkham's original, highly successful, all-natural herbal formula that millions of American women took without problem and swore by, which has been kind of sidelined and hidden away, and we're going to make it available to women to support their fertility.
I'm always fascinated, so of course, to see them work, but then I get interested in what's the biology. I wonder what's happening there. How interesting, and I'm all about it. So we look forward to that. When do you think that's going to get underway? Can people sign up to be a part of that study?
Yes, I'm going to post the proposal on my Substack. I was advised to do that by the person helping us get ready to submit the proposal to the NIH. I'm just going to put the whole proposal on Substack and have a donations button and get started and invite scientists the way I did last time, the way Amy Kelly and I did last time, to participate in this. And, hopefully we'll get funding in the fall, which is when a funding cycle is complete for this kind of thing. But one thing I want you to think about, which is fascinating, I'm not a doctor, but I'm a cultural critic. So I do notice when concepts around the body and wellness change. And something that Lydia Pinkham and her letter writers talked about a lot is uterine health, and specifically uterine tone. And what these herbs do, among other things, is tone the uterus, right? I don't even know what that means, but it's fascinating to me. Right? It's fascinating to me that was a concept.
I mean, it's a muscle. There's a myometrium. There's a muscle there. I don't know. That's interesting. Maybe that's something to do with the menstrual cramping or something that's associated with that. All right, listen, I'm going to take a little break here, and then we're going to bring Dr. Trozzi in. I want to give him a chance to talk to you as well, because he's a Naomi fan, and that's always fun for me. So we'll be right back with Naomi and Dr. Mark Trozzi after this. Something our audience knows well is that what's good for our health can also be good for the environment. Paleo Valley makes snacks, drinks, oils, and more that are nutrient-dense, delicious, and impeccably sourced. Co-founder Autumn Smith champions regenerative farming. It's a level beyond organic.
When you go to the grocery store, 90% of the animal products you're going to buy are from factory farms. And we obviously know factory farms work against nature. They work against animal health and in many ways against human health. Regenerative farms work on taking the landscape or the ecosystem from a degraded state, which the environment right now needs a lot of rehabilitation, and we have lower nutrient levels in our soil than ever before. We found that animal products from regenerative systems have nutritional benefits above and beyond other types of animal products.
Paleo Valley's beef sticks and bone broth protein powder are my favorites, and they come from regenerative farms. And the sticks also come in pasture-raised chicken as well.
We actually just went and visited one of our chicken farmers, and we work with a lot of co-ops and people all over the country.
We are such fans of Autumn, her work, and her extraordinary small business. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for a 15% discount on your first order, or get 20% off when you subscribe.
Hey, Dr. Drew here, and we are interested in health and longevity, and the longevity nutrient is Fatty 15, discovered amazingly by a veterinarian who was responsible for the Navy's fleet of dolphins. Turns out Dolphins are healthier when they have adequate amounts of pentadecanoic acid, which is C15. It also, for us, it helps humans as well, reduces the oxidative stress on our cell membranes, which is part of the aging process called ferroptosis. So she takes it, I take it, whole family takes it. And if you'd like some, go to drdrew.com/fatty15 for yours. There are discounts there.
Oh my God, look, Drew, it's a dolphin. Oh my gosh.
Hey, Dr. Drew here, and even when we travel, we bring the new convenient fatty gummies. They're delicious, and they are portable, and they're great. And remember, this is a longevity ingredient. It fights against the oxidative stress on our cell membranes. We call that process ferroptosis, discovered in dolphin research by Dr. Van Watson. And I'm taking this every day, even when I travel. It's Fatty 15.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
And a reminder, we'll be taking calls a little bit later. It's 8333-DRDREW. Naomi Wolf is still with me. You can follow her on X, Daily Clout, and also Naomi Wolf. And we have now Mark Trozzi. As I explained here, he's an ER doc, trauma doc, taught at multiple medical schools. You can follow him on YouTube. He hosts Dr. Mark Trozzi and also Dr. Trozzi News Substack. Mark, welcome to the program.
Oh, Dr. Drew, Dr. Wolf, it's nice to see you both. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
So I'm going to give you a chance to gush at Naomi just because I find it incredibly entertaining. But before I get into what I want to talk about, go ahead.
Well, I've got to gush over your academic achievements and the hard work that your team did. I'm a friend of Dr. Chris Flowers as well.
Oh, wow.
And so that's what brought me into your ecosystem was the team you put together to dissect the Pfizer documents, which really added a sledgehammer to the work that a lot of us had been doing on the issue of these fraudulent injections. So that's kind of why I'm a Naomi Wolf fan.
That's very kind of you. The real leadership was by Amy Kelly, who has moved on to other projects. But thank you. It was a really hard thing to do. I trust I will get into heaven as a result of having spent 2.5 years slogging through that material. But yeah, I appreciate it. It's definitely, I don't know how you guys do it day after day dealing with that material. It got to be overwhelming for me to look at the face of evil. But thank you. That's very kind of you. And I appreciate what you're doing as well. And of course, we love Dr. Flowers. So thank you for this kind of work.
Thanks to your whole team.
Thank you.
Well, Mark, explain what it is you have been doing.
Well, up until the launch of COVID, I was an emergency doctor. I'd been working 27 years in emergency in Canada. I had a real deep interest, and I still do, in trauma medicine. I taught advanced trauma life support. I was selected by the College of Surgeons of America to teach that, and I taught that to doctors from across Canada and around the world. And I worked in rural emergency, which was really my passion. I started in a city emergency, and then as I built my skills, my goal was to get to the point where I could be the only doctor in a trauma or an emergency department to handle anything. And that's really what I was doing for the last 10 to 15 years, in addition to my teaching. And I was teaching at the 3 universities as well. So that's what I was doing up until COVID was launched. And then one day I came into work, and it used to be a really busy place, hospitals and emergency departments were full of patients. And one day I showed up to work and it was empty. And it stayed empty for a long time. And the TV in the waiting room, which was also empty, was describing how emergency departments were full of people dying of COVID. And so that became a big turning point in my life. Through that year, I stayed in the emergency department. I was actually in one emergency department. I worked in 3 departments at the time, in addition to the 3 schools. One of the departments was designated as the COVID site for the region. So I had a very front row seat to really the deception of COVID. And so when I was in an empty hospital, and I took things at face value, I didn't just assume that this was a giant plandemic. So I researched coronaviruses. And, within a week or two of studying 12 hours a day, again, because I had no patience, but I was being told, hey, any moment you're going to see all these people dying of COVID and you better get ready for it. So what did I discover? I discovered, things like zinc and hydroxychloroquine were a very reasonable way to suppress the replication phase of the virus. I would learn shortly after that ivermectin had looked phenomenal for many mRNA viruses and some DNA viruses. And what I was seeing at the front line was, as I was discovering things, I was watching the very same things being suppressed. I also, in the context of what
Mark,
I was
I'm
seeing...
going to interrupt you real quick.
Please do.
You're going to get back to also, I promised Naomi I'd let her go by the bottom of the hour, and I made her stick around so you could gush at her. But Naomi, it's always great to see you. I know you've got to go, and we'll no doubt have you very soon.
Great to see you. Great to meet you, Dr. Trozzi. And thank you, Dr. Drew.
It's great. Great to see you, Naomi. Thanks.
Okay. So, Mark, you're saying I also...
Yeah. So I learned about the PCR and learned about how it was really being abused to misrepresent things. I looked at the work of Neil Ferguson. Neil Ferguson is the British scientist, or a really serial fraudster scientist, who was used to create the mathematic modeling claiming hundreds of millions of people would die of COVID if we didn't do radical things that we'd never done before, like lock down the population. So in about early May, maybe even it was April of 2020, I mean, I knew the public was being misled. And I knew there was the danger of people, some people were going to get sick with this virus and be denied basic treatment, including, no matter how a pneumonia starts, you always give antibiotics for genuine pneumonia. And the idea that was now being banned meant people were going to die of pneumonia regardless how it got started. So I actually, I did an identity scrambled interview on Rebel News, which is sort of Canada's biggest alternative platform, and just explained some of these things to people. But speeding forward in the story, things got stranger and stranger. And clearly, there was a psychological control happening over doctors and nurses. But in about October 2020 was the first documents I could get about these injections that were getting ready to roll out as the solution and how we would get our freedom back. And when I got those emergency use authorization documents and studied them, it was immediately obvious that this is not a vaccine, and that it was a very dangerous experiment. In my opinion, even just vaccinating against coronaviruses, especially vaccinating against anything during an active pandemic or an active infection, that's a mistake. Vaccinating against coronavirus is known to trigger, accelerated disease rather than suppressed disease, and then to look at the ingredients. And what I found is, wow, here's these infinite tissue pegylated nanoparticles that will penetrate everything in the body. That's by design. That's well established in some of the, research they were used for, like brain cancer. So, and what were they going to deliver? They were delivering, I mean, it turned out to be worse, but the ingredients they claimed that were there was they were going to deliver highly modified forms of genetic material, messenger RNA, to instruct human cells to produce the most toxic part of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. And
that's the part, to me, the part that is the most egregious as we look back at this very bizarre tale is the fact that the continued pressure to revaccinate for the production of the toxic molecule. That is the oddest thing in the world to me. And the mandates, those were the two transgressions. I mean, we really want to talk about where this thing, I agree with you. Everything you said was how I experienced it. I kept just going, like shaking my head like, huh, what, really? It's like a lot, it was so confusing. And I remember at the time, I just kept, what's happened to us? What happened to our peers? What went on here? And one of the answers I got, at least in this country, was, well, 70% of doctors are employees, and they were just listening to the bosses lest they lose their job. In Canada, I assume it's essentially the same thing. And then the hospital administrators were getting their marching orders from the government, which became highly, it just totalitarian. Let's call it what it was. It became centralized, authoritarian, and had no problem eliminating basic civil liberties.
Yes, yeah, I agree. And Dr. Drew, I watched the buildup to that over the decades preceding that, because I'm a 1990 medical school graduate, so I've been in hospitals for decades. When I first entered practice, I mean, hospitals weren't perfect. Nothing's ever been perfect, but doctors ran the hospital and nurses ran the hospital. We had chiefs of staff and we had charge nurses. And administration was a very small department. It wasn't running things. And what I watched over the decade plus leading up to COVID was this swelling of administration. And suddenly administrators were telling doctors how to practice medicine. And I remember
when it started. You may remember when it started. It started with something called clinical pathways. You remember that euphemism?
Yes.
That was back in the 90s. We're going to these are just standards. These are just recommendations. These are just, so everyone has an idea of what, clinical pathways. If we'd only stop then, for God's sakes. But I want to review with you, if you wouldn't mind, what they're coming up with now. More panic porn in this country. Yahoo Health has a headline, and I'm sure it's going to be in CNN everywhere else. Let me read you the headline. New COVID subvariant, Cicada. Oh, there it is. On the rise in California, just in time for summer. Cicada is some crazy name they gave it because it hides out during part of the season and in the summer, I guess. I want to read you what some of our peers are saying and help me understand what they're thinking. The biggest threat is the low vaccination rate in seniors. The landscape of divisiveness around vaccines is leading people to be confused and to think of COVID as being political when it is not. Well, I agree with that. It is not political. Let me give you another quote from another so-called expert. Give me a second here. So we agree that it's not political, but why is there's so much? Here we are. Clouds are coming. You might get a downpour, blah, blah, blah. Hold on. Well, here we go. Getting vaccinated lowers the risks of long COVID. Really? Is that why they should get vaccinated? Because there's a new, my God. And the more times you get a COVID infection, the higher your risk of ultimately developing long COVID. So therefore they don't go so far, they're pushing a booster for a variant that hasn't been around for 18 months. We're talking about a new variant for which it does not cover. And they go in this article, go on and on about how different looking this virus is. That means the immune response from the vaccine will not cover it for a vaccine that doesn't prevent infection and doesn't prevent transmission. What are we doing? What is this, and has real risk in terms of side effect?
Well, it seems to me that what's happening is the people who've committed what I consider to be crimes of COVID, part of how they're trying to cover up what they've done is to pretend it all worked and keep plowing ahead with it. And the reason I say that is, the two lies there's three lies. It's the most efficient lie, I think, in history: safe, effective vaccine. Why? Well, is it a vaccine? No. A genetic experiment has never been a vaccine. You can't just change a name and then expect everyone to go along with it. Second is, well, is it safe? Well, clearly not. I mean, the U.S. VAERS data is among the mountains of evidence. Nothing has ever killed, no medical thing has ever killed this many people. So let's go to the last part, which is, well, is it effective? Well, the evidence is clear. I presented to the Romanian parliament about this, the negative efficacy of the COVID shots. And there's tons of studies, there's tons of evidence, but I think the most clear one comes from the Cleveland Clinic. They've done 2 studies on this. They've since done a study on the flu vaccine with similar findings. And what did they find? Measuring disease rates in 50,000 employees at the Cleveland network of hospitals. Every COVID shot increased the risk of getting COVID. So even if they're saying that, well, we need to protect people against COVID, well, it doesn't do that. These shots increase your risk of getting sick with COVID, getting hospitalized with COVID, dying of COVID. And that's the smallest part. The biggest part is these shots have a large variety of mechanisms to kill people. And the evidence is clearly there, and it's always been there, and it just keeps growing.
I was telling, did you hear the conversation I had with Naomi? Doing necessary studies to decide about, is it COVID, is it the vaccine, is it both that are creating so many of these we think problems we're starting to see. Are we starting to see the issue at hand is progressive neurological injury, immune suppression, cancer is progressing more rapidly? Is that actually happening? A, which they've really not really, they have not really done the studies. Maybe they're doing them. And B, which is it, or both?
Well, I think there's a couple ways to look at it. One is mechanisms. And that's the way I like to think, like if you take a hammer and you hit a nail and it goes through the wood, you can run data on it, like, how many hammers, how many nails, but it makes sense. And when you look at literally genetically modifying people to produce the most toxic part of a foreign entity, of a coronavirus that, as we all know, the evidence is quite clear, this was man-made. And the most toxic part of it, there's evidence from back to 2015 that you just expose hamsters, not even to this super hybrid version of a coronavirus, you just expose them to spike protein and you give them a lung disease, right? So there's never been any evidence that this injection helps people. Now, the studies are being suppressed. I'm actually doing research right now with Dr. Ville out of Florida, and I can't go further into that right now, but people can watch interviews and listen to her, relate her clinical experience. But the study is going to take us a little while longer because, as you know, it's David versus Goliath on this one. But the forgive me a moment. Forgive me, I just lost my.
I always lose my train of thought. It happens. It's a daily affair these days. What's that?
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Maybe just help me regain the track of the question.
Well, you were talking about this woman that you're doing some research with, and that she talks in interviews about her clinical experience.
Yeah. So the clinical studies, they're happening in small amounts. We have plenty of autopsy research, Dr. Burkott, Dr. Cole. Most people know enough people who've been injured badly by the shot that they kind of don't need the data. I mean, and I think it's very important for people to continue to trust their own observation and their own experience. But what if you look at the data? You can look at the US military medical diagnosis data, and the shots super accelerated almost every disease process going. You look at the US VAERS data, I think you've reached 60,000 deaths reported. And if you take in the underreporting factor, that's probably more like 600,000, maybe a million Americans dead. And then if you look at Edward Dowd's work on disability and insurance data, you see the same thing. You look at Denny Rancourt's work, and you get estimates where, even back since early 2023, where you had estimated 17 million humans dead as a direct result of the injection. So I think there's plenty of evidence.
Here's my concern, though. My concern is I want us, all of us, whether you think there's an issue with the vaccine or not, to be good and good clinicians, and to be dismissive of this potential is not being that, right? It's not being a good scientist, not being a good clinician. But it's also not being a good clinician to blame everything on the vaccine. I'm seeing every psychiatric problem, every cancer, everything. It's like not every rheumatologic problem. People have always gotten sick. I've practiced medicine for 45 years. They've always gotten sick. The question is not, is the vaccine the reason people are getting sick today? The question is there a subset that are vaccine injured and have disability from it? And is there another group that is having acceleration of underlying or even precipitation to some extent of underlying illness? And it's not going to be easy to figure out. If you say it's not happening and that's that, or you say it's everything and that's no good either.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, there's the idea of do no harm, and that's the thing is, if we're doing an intervention and we're not sure of it, that's violating the basic oath to do no harm. And what we've seen is really an administration on a completely experimental level to 6 billion humans of something. And now we're going to sit around and figure out if it's hurting people. And if we manage to prove it, they'll stop it. And I also agree with you.
And by the way, Mark, it's one thing if we'd done this experiment on a informed group of people, millions of people even, who wanted to do this. Now, mind you, they would have been completely scared out of their wits because because of what the media did to them. So their judgment may not have been good, but at least they could have participated in the decision making around whether there's a risk reward benefit to this. Instead, we just said, you have to take it. You can't move about without it. Everyone gets it, period. It's safe and effective. I want to take a quick call here from Janice. And I don't know if you saw this interview. I did not, but maybe Janice can tell us about it. Janice, go ahead.
Hi, yes, I saw the interview with Dr. Hogue on Why Should I Trust You? And it was very interesting. He answered one of the burning questions I've had, which is, we know that it didn't protect against infection or spread. Did the drug company lie to the government, or did the government just choose to lie to the public? Well, apparently the government decided to lie to the public because he himself called the spike protein that's in that stuff garbage. And that's a quote. He said the government only paid them to develop and manufacture it. They're not the ones that gave it out or distributed it to the public or anything, if that was the government.
Thanks, Janice. I appreciate you calling in. Yeah, she's right. I mean, that is the most egregious, that's the most stunning part of this. It's stunning. And Mark, the whole world did it. The whole world. That's like remarkable. What the hell? What happened? What kind of mass psychosis? I hope to hell we look at this realistically in 30 years, you know? My God.
Well, might I mention too, Dr. Drew, if you look at the contracts, like the Public Health Agency of Canada, and I'm sure you've got similar things with the FDA, the European Medications Agency, but Public Health Agency of Canada signed a contract with Pfizer and Moderna. Those contracts state right in them, we don't have evidence that this works. We don't have evidence that it's safe. It's not properly tested in pregnant women. Now, we have officials that signed that contract and then turned to the public and said, it's safe, it's effective, give it to pregnant women, and any doctor who said otherwise should have his license stripped. So there's some very malfeasant behavior there, in my opinion.
Listen, Francis Collins said it in public. He was the head of FDA at the time, right? FDA. He said, we didn't give any thought to potential downside. Just get rid of this virus at all cost. That is inhuman, and it's the opposite of practicing medicine. One other thing I want to drill into about your observation about the empty hospital, the other thing that mystified me, and by the way, I'm taking calls at 8333-DRDRW. When I let Dr. Trozzi go, I'll take us afterwards. But one of the things that always sort of mystified me was nurses being interviewed outside the hospital crying about how people were dying in the ICU. I'm like, that's a very small percentage. I worked in an ICU for decades. Very small percentage of people that went into the ICU left the ICU. That's just the way ICUs are. And to see people out there that are supposed to be nurses that run these ICUs freaking out about it, I couldn't understand it. Some of the nurses later told me these were traveling nurses. They weren't even ICU nurses. They were not used to this at all. And they're the ones that get to tell the tale. And I'm sure there were busy ICUs, and I'm sure it was tough seeing young people come in there and get really sick, which happened. But this, I can't work in ICU because people die, that's all that happens in an ICU.
Yes, and you know, our ICUs in Canada, now I know there were places where people got sick. I know there was some areas where there were a lot of people sick, but that was the exception, not the rule. ICUs in Canada, and you can look at the billing data, the government billing data indicates it, they were at the lowest that they'd been in a long time. In other words, the amount of work going in ICUs was very low. And we literally had, we have a state propagandist called the CBC. They literally, and other propagandists, were literally corralling everything in an ICU around one sick patient or one sick actor in some cases. Yeah. And creating this idea that ICUs were full when they were actually at a lower occupancy than normal.
We had a better move here, which I noticed late in the first year of the pandemic. I was doing a nightly show, sort of helping people understand what was going on about COVID, and we just did nightly reports on a local news broadcast here in Los Angeles. And I kept getting these reports from the producer. The ICUs are 85% occupancy, and they can't get enough nurses, and blah blah blah. I said that's not fitting with what's going on in the hospitals around town. They were only looking at the county facilities, the public facilities. The private facilities were empty, or not empty, they were having no trouble. And so they reported the small subset of the entire healthcare system as representative of the entire system.
Yeah, it was very cherry-picked propaganda by the media, I think.
Well, listen, I want to let you go.
I agree.
I appreciate your work. I appreciate you coming and joining me. Do you have a sense, as a sort of a final thought, what happened to us? What happened to our profession? Well, I didn't recognize it, particularly in COVID. There's a lot of it anymore. What happened?
Well, I think it's a culmination of a very long project that was started in the early 1900s by the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, to take over medicine. And they took over medical education. And so that's been a long process. And then I think, as you mentioned, you get to a point where medicine has been shaped. And I've told my medical students 10, 15 years ago, I said, don't try to think like a computer. You've got to think, you've got to visualize, you've got to understand. Yeah. But this drive towards diagnostic criteria, treatment protocol, where doctors become, instead of using their brains to really understand things and think about it and get creative, instead, they just run a flow chart in their head. And that means they're no longer taking care of the patient. They're just an execution point. And who's taking care of the patient? Well, in the case of COVID, everything come from the WHO. And who controlled the WHO? Well, who financed the WHO? Well, Bill Gates and Big Pharma.
And China.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who was trying to protect themselves from bad juju, being ashamed for what they had done.
So true.
Well, listen, appreciate you being here. Where do you want people to go to find you?
Well, the best place, if you're on Substack, Dr. Trozzi, or you can go to drtrozzi.news. Of course, I'm on X, but subscribe at drtrozzi.news or Dr. Trozzi and Substack, and we'll keep you. I keep doing my homework here, and I appreciate people utilizing the information.
That's Trozzi. Hope to talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Drew. Have a great day.
Cheers. All right. I want to take calls. I'm sitting here, 833-3-DREW. Let me look at you guys on the restream. I recommend some of you who are saying interesting things there. Somebody wanted to hear something about diabetes. Thank you, Johnny Kelly. He was a K-Rock listener back in the day. Just let me give you a second to look at your guys' comments here. But I'd be happy to ask you questions on any topic. But I am interested in how you were hoodwinked or how you withstood the onslaught of propaganda. Over on the Rumble Rants, you guys never call in. Come on now. I hate to be begging for calls, but here I am. All right. Yep. Do no harm, hyphen. That is something that should still be the most important credo of all. And the is going back towards normal. I'm noticing things I'm seeing care being high quality and people are getting back towards normal, but still trying to understand with what happened to us here and really being honest about it. There has to be a reckoning. And I think a lot of people want that.
We have callers.
What's that?
I see callers. The lines lit up then, Drew. There's like four people that just came in.
I'll take a little break here. Yep. I see you guys coming in. We'll get to it. And then after this little break, I'll get to the calls. More of our audience is taking health and wellness into their own hands, and they're doing it with The Wellness Company. For a discount on the best-selling products and everything on their website, for that matter, go to drdrew.com/TWC. The medical emergency kits are among the most popular items. There are 8 different kits, each depending on your individual needs. Inside, you'll find antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, first aid, anti-nauseal, skin treatments, and a kids kit with EpiPen and one for travel. The advantage to having an emergency kit in the house is immediacy. You don't have to run to the urgent care and spend a ton of money for all that infrastructure or wait for the pharmacy to open or try to find a doctor. And then there's Ultimate Spike Detox Supplement with nattokinase, turmeric, and bromelain. It has helped the vaccine injured. And anyone who is concerned about cardiovascular issues caused by lingering spike from the virus or the shot, the Ultimate Spike Detox is for you. One of TWC's top sellers is a topical ivermectin cream. It treats inflammation of the skin, issues like rosacea. The Wellness Company is always innovating. So go to drdrew.com/TWC to see what they have to offer and get a 10% discount there. A lot of people may not know whether their collagen supplement is complete or not. Bones provide the complete collagen supplement, and that's why Paleo Valley's bone broth collagen protein powder is made from grass-fed and finished beef. They are simmered. There's no solvents or anything like that. And you'll hear tons of testimonials out there that it is something that people notice a difference. Delicious, low calorie. It's a scoop that delivers the trifecta of protein, collagen, gut support as well. And why order 3 separate supplements if you can just stay with stock up on one delicious nutrient? And Susan, you let me down today. You did not bring me a Frappuccino so I can drink that in front of everybody, which are, it's coffee. You put instant coffee, Susan, instant coffee, bone broth, ice, and cream, whipped cream, a little whipped cream on top. There it is. That's what she puts in there. I recommend it most highly. Go to drdrew.com/PaleoValley for 50% off. And that's a discount, and also 20% off when you subscribe. And do not forget these superfood bars. I just had one. I often think to myself, why would I eat junk when I have these around? They are excellent sources of protein and nutrients, really nutrient packed. Cashews,
I'm gonna
blueberries.
have a beef stick now.
And then the beef stick, of course, always around. All right, so let us get to callers here. Oh yeah, this is Chris.
Hello,
Chris, is that right? Hi, Chris. What's going on?
Yeah. Hello.
You're
commented
on
this. Okay, can you hear me?
I got you.
You commented on the psychosis that Americans are under, and I wanted to just comment on what you say. I don't have any prepared remarks, but what I can say very clearly is, yes, it's obvious that there's a psychosis that's been going on. The red line has been pushed. Listen, the medical professionals, this is a good source of feedback. If you want to see when things go terribly, totally wrong, just look at the COVID experiments. This is not what we should be doing. The medical professionals should be absolutely separate from the state. They can't combine, because when you do that, you get this type of situation where you have the state overriding professional medical advice that's valid, and you have a whole population of people who've been put under an experiment that a lot of them are suffering terribly. There's no chance for feedback to the government because they've institutionally locked that off with the pharmaceutical companies because they have such an interest in what they're doing. So my only comment is this, Dr. Drew, what you're doing here is very good. We're able to express ourselves and communicate with you, with each other through feedback. That should have been allowed at the beginning. We may not be here if that was more of you doing what you're doing at your show. So what I just want to make
Chris,
the point is
I think what I've learned, it's a great point. And I was really talking, you're right, we've all been under a psychosis, but I was really talking about our profession, like what happened to us. But you're right. And it is about the state overreach. And one of the things that I have learned through all this, sunshine is a critical ingredient in preventing these things. Exposure, truth, discourse, censorship, man, when that starts to happen, it's a psyop. Immediately, everyone's got to recognize it for what it is.
Well, thank God you realize that, and your great crew does. And thank you for doing us the honor of bringing it up in a logical discussion, a rational place where we can say that you've gone too far. This is too much. We need recourse now. And the recourse is to look at this as an experiment and say, and never again. Never again.
Yeah, yes, sir, Chris. I never again. That I think is the credo that we should be. And also, free speech matters. We got a public health overreach. We have to figure out how to reel that back in. We have to make sure that the government is not in a position to take away civil liberties just because. I mean, there's a lot to correct in order to make sure it's never again. This now is Mr. Watson. Go ahead. Have a go at it.
Yes, sir. I am always worried about the propaganda, especially about health and the issues that we have to deal with. But most of all, I'm curious about you being one of the healthiest men in media, mainstream media, you being the Adonis of talk radio for decades, especially since I saw you in Muscle magazine. What is it like for you to be the most chiseled and best-looking man in media?
You're Mr. Watson. I think you picked This is what Corolli used to give me shit about. A passionate man, Mr. Watson. That is. But let me just say.
Well, it's also you giving us the information we need. Thank you for the truth.
That's my pleasure. But you do give me a chance to talk about something, which is I've been working out since I was 15. And I'm so grateful for that. I enjoy it. I love it. It's my study hall. It's something I need every day. And everyone needs to understand. Peter Thiel was very clear. No, not Peter Thiel. What's our friend? The cancer surgeon. Attia. Thank you very much. Peter Attia pointed this out, and when he pointed out the data, I was like, God, he is so right. That one of the most significant elements in aging well is maintaining your muscle mass. Is just such a critical aspect for multiple reasons. Our muscle is a metabolic organ, and if you have, and by the way, falls and whatnot become an issue later, and everybody hits what's called a sarcopenic cliff. You want to push that back as far as possible, and lifting weights and lifting heavy weights is very important. Not straining, not Valsalva. Run on a sprint. Don't do long runs. That's very clear in terms of reducing visceral fat and reducing cortisol levels. If you love long running, go at it, please. I don't want to take that away from you. But what's clearly optimal is lifting heavy weights, every muscle group, every joint group, and sort of hit cardio. It's clearly the way to age well. On top of that, I have certain supplements that I really am completely enthusiastic about. So let's talk to, thank you, Mr. Watson, Laurie. Now we're going to go to Laurie. What's going on?
Hi, Dr. Drew and Susan. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Hi, Dr. Drew.
You bet.
I'm a retired nurse. I worked for 32 years, and I'm glad I retired, to be honest, and I loved the profession. We're not doing anything. I don't see the profession doing anything to really build trust besides you. Not even where, I was offered the flu vaccine this year. So I did my own research because no one asked me, are you allergic to fish? I had to research what's in the flu vaccine, which is squalene. It's from shock liver, and it's oil-based. And we're still not aspirating, Dr. Drew. What happens if you inject something oil-based directly into a vein?
It's not just in the vein, just the fact that it's oil-based, it's going to sit there and keep causing the allergic reactions. Yeah, that is concerning. But you know what else concerns me, Laurie? And I've been saying this for a while. Nursing has to take its position. It has to be elevated in medicine, because we elevate a lot of people that are not clinically trained, and nursing know what the hell is up. You have all that clinical experience. If people have a medical question, ask a nurse. They have immense experience, and they'd rather go to a nutritionist or a God knows what who's never seen a sick person. How do we get nursing sort of esteem and status up higher in the public view?
Well, Dr. Drew, many nurses left the bedside, number one. Okay, they furthered their degrees because why didn't they want to stay at the bedside?
Yeah,
we have to look at that, number one. They left the bedside. Many went on to become have doctorates in nursing, and you're not allowed to call them a doctor. I mean, our profession has never really been respected. In all the years that I worked,
it has been periodic. I would say it has been periodically, but not the way it should. Now, people don't understand the depth of clinical knowledge that nursing has. They just don't understand it. And part of it, I think, is because we hide sick people in hospitals. They've never seen sick people. And nursing has seen lots of them. Lots.
Yeah, nurses, you're right, we're not valued. And, I used to do motivational interviewing because I had psych experience. So I worked in a primary care as the last part of my career. And I had the motivational interviewing. And, doctors would give me a patient that's A1C wouldn't decrease no matter what they were doing. They were using the insulin. They were taking the food that they needed to take in. Well, when I sat with the patient and said, where are you giving your insulin? One spot, never rotating.
Right.
The minute he started rotating, what happened? A1C came down.
Well, it's something I've been saying for a long time. If people just paid attention, if people just used their brain and thought about things and paid attention, it would make a big difference in medical care. The other thing is, from motivational interviewing standpoint, I look at all the homeless people. None of them get any motivational enhancement interventions ever.
No.
I remember back in the day they had drunk houses where you could go in and drink yourself as much as you want. And I said that's fine as long as that when they're in that confined medically sort of supervised space, that people are doing constant motivational enhancement therapy when they're not drunk, when their brains are working kind of right. And we just don't do that, or we're not training people or something. I don't know what the problem is.
Well, the old 30-day inpatient stay for detox was the best.
I know it's gone. I know.
We all know that.
Listen,
when managed care came in, I mean, you can't expect, and who's really, they're being thrown out in a day or two after detox they're thrown back to the street or to prison, and it just keeps revolving.
That's right, of course. Well, listen, you and I see the world the same way.
It's a sad profession.
Well, I mean, it's. I don't know. I see a lot of good stuff going on, and it seems to be moving in the right direction. But we got a lot of work to do. But I really do appreciate the call, Laurie. I do see the world the way you do. All right, let's go now to talk about what's coming up for us tomorrow. Is tomorrow the Del Bigtree Day? What's tomorrow? Tomorrow is Del Bigtree and Emily Yazinski. Kira Davis steps in for me. We'll have no show on Thursday. She'll be here on the 29th. I may be back on the 30th. We'll see. Dr. Victory will be here if I'm not. I'm looking forward to some of those guests in
Thank you so
May.
much for your calls.
Yes, thank you for the calls.
We want more. We want more. We want to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I do love doing calls.
Don't be afraid. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I'll talk to you about anything. There was somebody in the restream that had what sounded like a complicated question about a sick diabetic patient. I said, call. I'll talk to him about it.
Yeah.
Oh boy, remdesivir was still being given.
I think
That's
we're
interesting.
probably going to have to talk about vaccine again tomorrow with Del Bigtree, right?
Well,
Didn't he do a whole movie on?
Yeah, he did that I assume he's on to the next thing. We'll see. We'll see what he's up to or how that has been received and how he's doing
It's
with
a
all
big
it.
topic right now. I mean,
The vaccine again?
Yeah.
Well, if they are going to start to push more panic porn, people are going to be talking about the vaccine again, because the reality is, if you're going to insist that people take boosters, you're going to have to explain why and what the risk reward is and who needs it and under what circumstances. And I mean, it's not something you can just say, hey, get your vaccine, get it. Everybody's got to get it. That makes no sense to anybody.
You notice that since the pandemic, we haven't had another panic porn moment with killer hornets.
I know, right? They get addicted to.
I think that was all Chinese motivated PR. They were just promoting it, and then our guys
did see something. Oh no, I know what it was. Wait, what was it I saw today? CNN. CNN reported on some sort of rape channel or something. Some sort of situation where men are being taught how to rape or something, and it was this curiosity. Like, of course, nobody's interested in that, but it got like millions of views. So they went, he has followers and they all want to rape. I think we should just stop watching the news, right? Let's just stop. I think X is a good source. You can find your favorite podcast that reviews the news. I think that's better than anything that goes on television right now. Watch Gutfella just because it's fun.
Killer hornets.
That is a comedy show where we review the news. They want the recipe up on screen for your Frappuccino, Susan.
Oh.
But that's...
Okay. Which screen?
I don't know.
Send it to me. I'll show it on tomorrow's show. Just send it to me, Susan. I'll put it together and show it in a graphic.
Barsh sent it to you. Paleo Valley. How much instant coffee did you put in?
Just a teaspoon.
And she puts a little heavy cream, and then a little whipped cream on top.
A cup heavy cream.
Yeah.
A cup of water. Or you can just put milk in there if you want, or almond milk, whatever you drink in your coffee or whatever, and some ice and Paleo Valley bone broth, chocolate. You could do vanilla too.
Okay, and
You could throw
Emily.
a scoop of ice cream in there if you wanted to.
Uh,
The thing about this bone broth is that you can mix it in your usual drink, like your smoothie. If you're doing a smoothie, put the vanilla in, or just the unflavored. You like fruit smoothies?
So we are going to talk with Big Tree about, amongst other things, the Hegseth and no more mandatory flu shots. We're going to talk about what's going on at HHS and studies. And let's see what else he's got here. Hold on. CDC to classify vaccines that do not stop transmission, that they reclassify these things. That's interesting. So he's got a lot to talk about. And then Emily will be here as well.
Although
She's a journalist.
It's hard to get a word in edgewise with him. He
With
just
him.
talks for like 20 minutes straight.
Makes my life easier. But he also says stuff that's
Right?
interesting. He says
he just gets going and it's like, wow, he didn't take a breath.
Yeah, he's very interesting too. So, all right, and then tomorrow will be my last show for a few days, but hopefully I'll be back early next week. But in the meantime, I appreciate y'all being here. We appreciate the calls as well. Thank you for the comments on the Restream and over on the Rumble Rants. Do tell a friend. We are here generally Tuesday and Thursday at 2 Pacific, Wednesday at 4, and we will see you tomorrow.
Ta-ta.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer.
As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.